It was a slip of the hand. That's how I ended up turning on my childhood best friend's webcam. On the screen, amidst a haze of steam, she was humming a tune, her skin pale as snow. I panicked and shut it down instantly, but a message popped up on my phone a second later. Like what you see? That night, she knocked on my bedroom door, hugging a pillow to her chest. "Okay, love, I'm freezing. I've only got one comforter. You really want to see me freeze?" She didn't wait for an invite. She burrowed into my sheets, her cold feet seeking out the warmth of my calves. I went rigid. She leaned in close to my ear, a mischievous smirk in her voice. "Why are you so tense? We grew up together, didn't we? Maya Brooks is my green plum, my childhood best friend. Our bond has been ironclad for 20 years. How close are we? We're talking diaper days in the sandbox. I was the one who ran to the corner store to buy her first box of tampons. I still remember the type. Overnight, extra long. Naturally, I was also the one who took the punches for her. When we were kids, she was the cute, quiet one. When the chubby kid from 4B pulled her pigtails, I charged in swinging. I ended up with a black eye and a bloody nose, but when she wiped my face with Neosporin, tears welling in her eyes, I decided it was worth it. Growing up, though, things started to feel different. She grew up to be dangerous. We ate grilled cheese sandwiches and mac and cheese together for years. So how did she end up with curves in all the right places and a look in her eyes that could stop traffic? The worst part is she has zero self-awareness. In front of me, she's still that same carefree girl. She'll walk out of the bathroom, wrapped only in a towel, and tell me to grab pajamas from her closet. The one on the left, the white one with the lace trim, she shouted over the sound of running water. I stood with my back to the bathroom door, rifling through her hanging clothes. My fingers brushed against the silky, slippery lace, and I felt the heat rising in my ears. "Caleb, are you slow or something?" "It's just pajamas," she called out. "Got it." I shoved the clothes through the crack door. My fingers brushed against hers, damp and warm, and I recoiled like I'd been shocked. She's my bro. That's what I told myself. I've looked at her for 20 years. It's no different than looking at my own left hand. Except looking at my left hand doesn't make my heart hammer against my ribs. The shift happened last Wednesday. We share a 2-bedroom apartment. Not huge, but cozy. The Wi-Fi in my room was spotting out, so I took my laptop to the living room to finish a rush project. Her door was closed. I assumed she was binge-watching Netflix. Suddenly, my phone started vibrating like crazy. It was my demanding boss, spamming me with voice calls. I fumbled to answer, and my elbow hit something. A video window popped up on my laptop screen. At first, I thought my boss had sent a Zoom link, until I focused on the image. Behind the frosted glass of a steamy shower, a blurry but unmistakably curvy silhouette was drying her hair. The humming was faint. That Taylor Swift song Maya had been looping recently. My stomach dropped. Wait, this angle. It was broadcasting from a webcam of the laptop in her room. My head started buzzing. Was she trying to live stream? No, that's not her thing. That meant she forgot to turn off the remote desktop software. I'd fixed her computer a while back and installed it, and we never got around to deleting it. The figure on the screen moved, turning around. My fingers moved faster than my brain. Snap! I slammed the laptop shut. The sound echoed like a gunshot in the quiet living room. My heart was drumming a heavy beat against my chest. Thump, 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 making my eardrums ache. My mind was reeling with the glimpse I just caught. Pale skin, motion, the humidity of the bathroom. I'm dead. I slumped onto the sofa, my brain a chaotic mess. Did I see anything? Does it count? It was frosted glass. I didn't actually see anything. But the outline. My phone buzzed again. Not my boss. It was Maya via text. Just 4 words. Like what you see. My hand twitched, nearly dropping the phone on my face. My breathing stopped. She knew. How did she know? Did the software send a notification? Or was she looking at the screen too? I stared at the message, my fingers frozen over the keyboard. Admit it. Death sentence. Deny it. Too fake. Before I could concoct an excuse, her next text came through. Remote desktop notification. User connected. Nice move, Caleb. I was done for. Slip of the hand. I typed out with trembling fingers and hit send. I felt like a perv caught red-handed. Oh, she replied with just that one word. That oh was more terrifying than if she'd cursed me out. I watched the Maya is typing. Bubble appear and disappear for what felt like ages, but eventually, it went dark. She didn't send anything else. I sat in the pitch-black living room, feeling like a convict waiting for the warden. Time ticked by. It was so quiet I could hear the blood rushing in my temples. 10 minutes? 30. I lost track. Then a soft knock on my bedroom door. Knock. 3 slow, deliberate raps. The hair on my arm stood up. Caleb. Her voice came through the wood, sounding perfectly normal, maybe a little sleepy. You asleep? My throat was dry. I swallowed hard before croaking out. No. I'm cold, she said. I think the AC in my room is busted. It's blowing freezing air. Bullshit. It's early autumn in Chicago. It's barely 60 degrees outside. Nobody is running the AC. She was making an excuse. I can grab you a spare blanket. I offered tentatively. Silence for 2 seconds. I don't want a blanket, she said. I just want to borrow half your bed to warm up. Me? Caleb, open the door. Her voice dropped an octave, carrying a tone I couldn't quite decipher. We grew up together, didn't we? What are you afraid of? What was I afraid of? I was afraid I couldn't control myself. I wiped my face, accepted my fate, and walked to the door. I unlocked it. Maya stood there in a lilac silk slip dress, the spaghetti straps looking so fragile they might snap if you breathed on them wrong. Her dark hair was slightly messy, cascading down her back, and she was clutching that long, carrot-shaped body pillow she loves. She smelled like a hot shower and peaches, her signature lotion scent wafting toward me. The hallway light backlit her, giving her silhouette a soft, glowing fuzz. The hem of the dress hit mid-thigh, showing off long, bare legs as she stood barefoot on the floorboards. She looked up at me, her eyes surprisingly bright in the dim light. "Let me in," she said, her tone as casual as if she were commenting on the weather. I stepped aside. Hugging her carrot, she slipped past me like a cat returning to its favorite spot and made a beeline for my full-sized bed. "It is warmer in here." She tucked herself under my comforter, leaving only her head and a few strands of black hair visible on the pillow. I stood frozen by the door, not knowing what to do with my limbs. "What are you standing there for? Close the door. Come to sleep." She patted the empty space beside her, the movement completely natural. I slowly closed the door and locked it. The room plunged into deeper darkness, lit only by the faint amber glow of streetlights filtering through the window. The bed. Her. Me. I walked to the bed, my feet feeling like lead. I lifted a corner of the duvet and lay down, sticking as close to the edge as possible, my body rigid as a steel beam. The mattress dipped slightly under her weight, and the sweet scent of peaches intensified, invading my senses. Silence. Suffocating silence. I could hear her shallow breathing and feel the warmth radiating from her body, a stark contrast to my own tension. "Caleb." "Yeah." "Why are you so nervous?" She chuckled softly, her breath tickling my ear. "We grew up together, remember? It's not like we haven't slept in the same bed before." "How is that the same? We were toddlers then." I didn't answer. She seemed to turn over, facing me. In the dark, I could feel her gaze on my face. Then, a slightly cool foot snaked out from her side of the covers and pressed precisely against my calf. I jolted, nearly jumping out my skin. "My feet are cold," she said self-righteously, her toes wiggling against my leg. "Warm them up." The sensation, smooth, cool, and slightly ticklish, sent an electric shock straight up my spine. I lay stiff, afraid to move a muscle. Taking advantage of my paralysis, she scooted closer. The slippery silk of her dress brushed against my arm. Her arm pressed against mine, her body heat seeping through the thin fabric. Too close. Close enough to count her breaths. "Maya." My voice was tight, raspier than I intended. You're doing this on purpose," I said. She laughed again, a breathy sound that made my knees weak. "Doing what on purpose?" She played dumb, but that foot was getting bolder, sliding slowly up the curve of my calf. "You're the one who looked first, Caleb. I told you, it was a slip of the hand." "Was it?" Her tone pitched up, clearly skeptical. Her face moved closer, her warm breath practically hitting my neck. "Then why are you hiding?" "Guilty conscience." I turned my head sharply. In the darkness, I met her eyes, inches from mine. They were glistening, holding a spark of mischief and something else I couldn't read. The distance was non-existent. Our noses were almost touching. Her lips, in the dim light, had a faint sheen. The string of my brain labeled sanity snapped. Ping. I stared at her, and she stared back. The air stopped moving. Time stopped. The only thing left in the world was the sound of our ragged breathing and the heart in my chest about to explode. The mischief in her eyes slowly settled, replaced by something deeper, darker, something with a hook in it. "Maya." I said her name again, my voice rougher than before, like sandpaper. "Don't provoke me." "How am I provoking you?" She blinked, her eyelashes almost brushing my cheek. "I'm just cold. I needed a foot warmer." "Caleb, can't you keep your thoughts pure?" Her ability to gaslight me was truly world-class. That wandering foot was still pressed against my leg, stealing my warmth until it was toasty. But she didn't move it. Instead, her toes curled slightly, scraping against my skin. "Damn it." I inhaled sharply and closed my eyes. When I opened them, I turned onto my side, fully facing her. This breached every safety protocol we had. I could smell the faint scent of mint toothpaste on her breath. Fine. My thoughts aren't pure. I decided to go for broke. I slid my arm under her neck and pulled her into my arms. She clearly hadn't expected me to call her bluff. Her body went rigid for a split second, and she let out a tiny gasp. But the stiffness lasted less than a heartbeat. She relaxed instantly, practically adjusting herself to fit better in my embrace, resting her head in the crook of my shoulder, her cheek against my t-shirt near my collarbone. The body in my arms was warm, soft, smelling of peaches and that distinct Maya scent. Holding her, with my arm draped across her slender waist, I could feel the dip of her spine through the thin silk and the warmth of her skin. She's too skinny. The thought flashed through my mind inappropriately. She always looked great in clothes, but holding her, her waist felt so fragile like it might snap. Not cold anymore, right? I asked, looking down, my lips brushing her ear. She didn't answer, but the tips of her ears turned red in record time. Even in the dark, it was obvious. So, she does get embarrassed. Knowing that calmed the chaotic heat inside me, just a fraction, replacing it with a slightly wicked desire to tease her back. My hand on her lower back moved, fingers tracing a light line along her side. The girl in my arms trembled like she'd been shocked. "Caleb," she whispered furiously, sounding flustered. "What are you doing?" "Nothing." I mimicked her tone from earlier. "Just checking if you were really immune to the cold." "Seems not." That was a big reaction. "You." She lifted her head to glare at me, her eyes surprisingly bright. Because we were so close, the tip of her nose brushed my chin as she looked up. A soft, fleeting touch. We both froze. Our breaths tangled together again, hotter and messier than before. Her gaze dropped involuntarily to my lips. It lingered there for a few seconds before darting away, her lashes fluttering in panic. The air was crackling with invisible sparks. My Adam's apple bobbed. The arm holding her tightened instinctively, just as my brain short-circuited and I thought screw the childhood friendship and prepared to lean in and do something about it. "I'm sleepy," she announced suddenly. She buried her face back into the crook of my neck, nuzzling and deep. "Going to sleep." And just like that, she closed her eyes, forcing her breathing into a slow, rhythmic pattern. Faking it. Me. All that adrenaline stuck with nowhere to go. I stared at the top of her head, inhaling the scent of her shampoo. What was this? Light the fuse and run. I ground my teeth, frustrated. I squeezed her tight for a second. She played dead, ignoring me. I couldn't exactly shake her awake to demand answers. After holding it in, I rested my chin on her head and grumbled, "Fine. Sleep. I'm settling the score tomorrow." I felt the person in my arms suppress a tiny smile against my chest. I didn't see it, but I felt it. That night exhausted me, trying to sleep with a vibrant, breathing Maya in nothing but a slip dress in my arms. Impossible for any normal guy. Half my body went numb because I was afraid to move, afraid to wake her, and more afraid that any friction would set me off. She, on the other hand, fell asleep fast. Within minutes, her breathing actually evened out, her warm breath puffing against my neck. Torture. I stared at the dark ceiling, counting sheep, counting dumplings, reciting pie. Nothing worked. My body was tense as a rock, and a certain part of me was wide awake, completely ignoring my brain's orders. I don't know when I finally drifted off. It felt like I'd barely slept when something tickled my face. I frowned but didn't wake up. The sensation came again, this time on the tip of my nose, light as a feather. I forced one eye open. Dawn was breaking. Gray light filtered through the blinds. Maya was awake, propped up on one elbow, staring unblinkingly at me. Her other hand was extended, index finger guilty of the crime, not yet retracted. Seeing me open my eyes, she showed zero remorse for being caught. Instead, her eyes crinkled into a smile. In the morning light, that smile was clean and blinding. "Morning, Caleb," she said, her voice soft with sleep. My brain was still booting up. I looked at her smiling face inches from mine, the pronounced collarbone visible from her sideline position, and the strap of her nightgown that had slipped halfway down her shoulder. The blood rushed south instantly. I yanked the duvet up to cover myself and rolled over, putting my back to her. "Morning." I forced the word through my teeth, my voice so raspy it was embarrassing. Behind me, she let out a low laugh, like a cat that got the cream. "What are you hiding from?" She leaned in, resting her chin on my shoulder, her breath hitting the back of my ear. "You were pretty bold last night, Boss Stone." Boss Stone was a nickname she gave me ages ago because I was always managing her life. I hadn't heard it in years. Hearing it now was like pouring gasoline on a fire. Maya. I clenched my jaw, warning her. You keep messing around. You deal with the consequences. What consequences? She didn't retreat. Instead, she poked the tense muscles of my back. Do tell. I snapped. I flipped over in one fluid motion. She allowed a soft, ah, as I pinned her to the mattress. I caught her wrists with one hand, pinning them by the pillow. Her silk dress bunched up, the neckline askew, revealing an expanse of pale skin and a tempting shadow. She looked up at me, eyes wide. There wasn't fear in them, just surprise and a hint of excitement. You. She opened her mouth. I didn't give her a chance to speak. I lowered my head and kissed her, shutting up that mouth that had been teasing me all morning. Her lips were softer than I imagined, a little dry from sleep, but quickly moistened. She tasted like mint, just like me. Her body went stiff for a second, her wrists twitching in my grip, but she didn't fight. Then, as my tongue tentatively brushed against hers, a tiny whimper caught in her throat, and her eyes fluttered shut. That sound burned away the last shred of my restraint. I let go of her wrists, my hand cradling the back of her head, deepening the kiss. I took over, reckless and demanding. She responded clumsily, her tongue shyly touching mine before I swept it up in a tangle. Our breathing went haywire. The duvet slid down, the cool morning air hitting our skin causing shivers, but where we touched, we were burning up. I don't know how long it lasted. When we pulled apart, gasping for air, her lips were swollen and red, slightly parted. Her eyes were misty, cheeks flushed, looking up at me in a daze. That look, my throat tightened painfully. I almost dove back in. That's the consequence. I rested my forehead against hers, my voice unrecognizable. Still want to play? Her chest heaved. It took her a few seconds to whisper. Pervert. Yeah, I'm a pervert. I admitted it, my thumb brushing her bruised lip. Only for you. Her face turned even redder. She looked away, her lashes trembling fast. Get off, you're heavy. She pushed at me. I didn't move. I watched the blush spread to her ears. That wicked urge surfaced again. Maya, I whispered. What? Last night, I paused, feeling my own ears heat up, but I asked anyway. That text, like what you see? What did you mean? Her body stiffened. Just literal meaning. She wouldn't look at me. Is that right? I lowered my head, rubbing my nose against hers. So come into my room with a pillow, saying you were cold. Was that literal too? She went silent, pressing her lips together. Answer me. I urged, my lips grazing hers. Cornered, she squeezed her eyes shut and just yelled it out. Yes, I did it on purpose. Who asked you to look and then pretend nothing happened? Caleb, are you a man or not? She practically shouted the last sentence. Once it was out, she froze, eyes snapping open to look at me, realizing she just said the quiet part out loud. I looked at her, and I couldn't help it. I started laughing. A low rumble in my chest that made her vibrate too. What are you laughing at? She punched my shoulder, mortified. I caught her flailing hand and pinned it to the pillow, interlacing our fingers. Am I a man or not? I leaned down to her ear, whispering, didn't you just test that theory a minute ago? Her ears turned crimson, the color bleeding down her neck. Get out. She started kicking me. Laughing, I let her go and rolled to the side, but kept hold of her hand. The morning light was getting stronger. The room went quiet, save for our breathing. I stared at the ceiling, unable to stop grinning. Maya. What now? What is this? I asked. Did we just level up from childhood friends? Silence stretched out beside me, long enough that I thought she wouldn't answer. Then, I felt her slender finger gently hook around my palm. You guess, she mumbled, her voice tiny. I turned to look at her. She was looking at me, eyes shining, blush still lingering on her cheeks. The corner of her mouth quirked up in a small, victorious smile. The barren wasteland inside my chest suddenly bloomed into spring. We lay there, holding hands, not moving. A beam of sunlight squeezed through the gap in the curtains, slicing across the room and hitting her face, illuminating the tiny peach fuzz on her skin. She squinted and burrowed into my shoulder to hide from the glare. The movement was so natural, like she'd done it 1,000 times. I adjusted my arm to make a better pillow. Caleb, her voice was muffled against my shoulder. Yeah, I'm hungry. And? I wanted ramen, with 2 eggs, soft-boiled. She ordered me around with perfect entitlement, scratching my palm with her finger. I realized then, this girl intends to push her luck. She started the fire last night, acted shy this morning, and now she's ordering room service. All right, Your Highness. I sat up, accepting my fate. Wait here. I tried to get out of bed, but she grabbed my wrist. What? I looked back. Half her face was buried in the duvet, just her eyes blinking at me. You going like that? I looked down. I was in boxers and a t-shirt. Standard home attire. What else? Do I need a tuxedo to boil noodles? I raised an eyebrow. She blushed, let go, and pulled the covers over her head. Just go. I snorted and went to the kitchen. The pots and pans were all things we'd bought together. I boiled water, grabbing eggs, and a packet of instant ramen for the pantry. Steam fogged up the window. My brain was still scrambling. It felt like a bizarre, beautiful dream. But her warmth was still on my shoulder, my lips still tingled. Not a dream. The noodles unraveled in the boiling water. I cracked 2 eggs in, watching the clear whites turn opaque, wrapping around the orange yolks. Soft boil. She's loved them like this since we were kids. Says the runny yolk makes the broth richer. I used to mess it up constantly, but today my hand was steady. Noodles done. I poured them into a bowl, added some leftover broth, sprinkled green onions. 2 perfect eggs sat on top, wobbling slightly. I carried the bowl back to the bedroom. She wasn't lying down anymore. She was sitting on the edge of the bed, wrapped in my hoodie. It swallowed her whole, leaving only her bare calves swinging in the air. Her eyes lit up when I walked in. Smells so good. I handed her the bowl and went back for another set of chopsticks, splitting half the noodles and 1 egg into a mug for myself. For a picnic? She asked. My room doesn't have a table, just a messy desk. We used to do this all the time, sitting on the rug, eating while watching a movie on the laptop. Yeah. I sat next to her, leaning back against the bed frame. She pulled my hoodie tighter, blew on the noodles, and poked the egg. The golden yolk spilled out, mixing with the soup. She squinted in satisfaction and slurped a huge mouthful. Good, she mumbled through full cheeks. Caleb, your ramen skills have leveled up. 20 years of practice. I'd hope so. I ate my own portion. We ate in comfortable silence for a minute. Caleb, shoot, are we together now? She asked quietly but clearly. My chopsticks paused. You tell me. I don't know. She poked at a noodle. You didn't formally ask. How should I ask? I looked at her. Do I need to submit an application to the Bureau of Friends to Lovers Relations? She snorted, nudging me with her elbow. Be serious. I'm serious. I set my mug down and turned to her. Maya Brooks. Seeing my face turn serious, she stopped smiling, pressing her lips together nervously. Look at me. She lifted her gaze to meet mine. In the morning light, her eyes were clear, reflecting my face. I like you, I said, enunciating every word. Not that you're my bro kind of like. I want to be your boyfriend kind. The kind where I want to kiss you, hold you, wake up with you, and go to sleep with you. Her eyes widened, her face flushing red again. Maybe I've liked you for a long time and just didn't realize it, or didn't dare to admit it. I continued. But I'm admitting it now. Maya, I'm going to be your boyfriend. From now on, when you're cold, you come to me. Hungry? I cook. Someone messes with you? I handle it. Happy or sad? I have to be the first person you think of. Deal. I let it all out in one breath. The nervousness vanished, replaced by waiting. She didn't speak. She just looked at me, eyes shimmering, filling with moisture. You. Her voice cracked. You suddenly said so much. Too wordy. I smirked. She shook her head vigorously, almost flinging tears. No. She sniffled, burying her face in her knees, so only her red ears showed. Deal. The boulder sitting on my chest finally crashed to the ground. A massive, unfamiliar joy surged up, drowning everything else. I reached out and pulled her noodle bowl and all into my lap. Hey, this soup. It's going to spill. Let it spill. I took the bowl from her hands, set it on the floor, and hugged her tighter. Say it again. Say what? Say deal. Say you want this. She went quiet for a few seconds, then her arms wrapped around my waist. Deal, she whispered. Then she added, Caleb, I like you too. I held her, feeling my heart swell until it hurt. After a while, she shifted. Caleb, yeah. The noodles are getting soggy. I let go laughing. She grabbed the bowl and went back to eating, ears still pink but grinning like an idiot. I picked up my mug. Cold broth, soggy noodles. Best meal I've ever had. After breakfast, I washed the dishes. She was in her room, doing something. I heard water running. My brain was still replaying the highlight reel. Webcam to confession. It felt like a roller coaster. Dry my hands, I walked to her bedroom door. It was ajar. Through the crack, I saw her sitting on her bed, phone in hand, typing furiously, a suspicious smile on her face. What are you doing? I pushed the door open. She jumped, nearly dropping the phone. She slammed it face down and hid it behind her back. And nothing. Oh, I walked over and crouched in front of her, looking up. Who are you reporting to? You look awfully pleased with yourself. You're the one who looks pleased. She kicked my shin lightly. I was just telling my best friend. Yeah, she murmured. Just gave her the summary. How did you phrase it? I was curious. She hesitated, stammering. I just said, I slept with him. Me? Maya. I gritted my teeth. Say that again? Who slept with who? Hey, close enough. She looked defiant. Process doesn't matter. Result is the same. How is it the same? I pinched her cheek. Who started last night? Who ran away this morning? She protested through squished cheeks. Lego. That was a strategic retreat. Retreating into the enemy's bed. I let go, looking at the red mark on her cheek, feeling a pang of guilt. I rubbed it with my thumb. She covered her face, glaring. Caleb, are you a dog? Pinching and biting. Yeah, I'm a dog. Your dog. I leaned down and kissed the back of her hand, covering her face. She froze, slowly lowering her hand. Her blush deepened, eyes shining. Does it hurt? I asked. She shook her head. Then suddenly, she leaned in and pecked me on the lips. Stamped, she said, eyes dancing with mischief. Mine now. I blinked, then smiled, tightening my grip on her waist. I leaned in to deepen the kiss. This one was gentle, slow. She hummed softly, arms winding around my neck, responding clumsily but eagerly. When we broke apart, we were both breathless. She leaned against me, twisting a button on my shirt. Caleb. Yeah. So, this is really starting? She sounded unsure, but hopeful. What else? I rested my chin on her head. You want a ribbon-cutting ceremony? No. She paused. It just feels unreal, like a dream. I squeezed her tighter. Does it hurt? If it hurts, it's not a dream. I dipped my head and bit her neck. Not too hard, but enough to feel. Ouch, she yelped, hitting my arm. You actually bit me. I licked the spot, watching it turn pink. Leaving a mark, I said with satisfaction. Mine. She touched the spot, looking at me, face cycling through shades of red. She buried her face in my chest. Childish. I held her, smelling her hair, heart overflowing. She scolded me, but her fingers kept playing with my button, winding round and round. The sunlight shifted, warming her bare legs. The apartment was quiet, just our breathing and my heart beating louder and louder for her. I caught her fidgeting hand. Maya. She looked up, eyes watery. Don't play with fire. My voice dropped thick. I rubbed the inside of her wrist with my thumb, feeling her pulse racing. You want to see what happens when you play with fire? Wasn't last night's lesson enough? Her face exploded with color. She looked away, but she was stubborn. Who's scared of who? I chuckled low in my throat. I cupped her face, forcing her to look at me. Really not scared. We were so close. Her lashes fluttered like butterfly wings against my cheek. Her lips parted slightly, still red from kissing. She didn't speak, just looked at me with a mix of shyness, nerves, and a brave sort of recklessness. Then, she closed her eyes, tilted her head up, and brushed her lips against mine. The string in my brain snapped. For real this time. All the restraint, the hesitation, the childhood friend's boundaries burned to ash. I don't know how we ended up in the bed. My shirt was gone. The strap of her slip dress slid down her shoulder. Skin on skin, burning hot. Her hand pressed against my chest, trembling. Pushing away, pulling closer. Caleb. She whispered my name between breaths, voice sweet and sticky like syrup. I'm here. I kissed her ear, her neck. Maya, look at me. She opened her eyes. Misty, focused only on me. I stopped, resting my forehead against hers, breathing hard. Is this okay? My sanity was hanging by a thread, but I had to ask. With her, I couldn't risk even a hint of force. She looked at me, cheeks flushed, gaze clear. The answer was obvious. The last barrier vanished. Sunlight filtered through the blinds, dust motes dancing in the beam. Two boats that had been drifting in a storm for too long finally found their harbor. The anchor dropped. Roots took hold. Sometime later, the storm passed. We lay tangled together, slick with sweat. She was exhausted, curled in my arms, hair plastered to her forehead, fast asleep. I watched her sleeping face in the fading afternoon light. Long lashes, beads of sweat on her nose, swollen lips. My doing. The wasteland in my heart was now a lush garden. Carefully, I slid my arm out from under her and went to the bathroom to dampen a towel. When I came back, she had subconsciously scooted to the warm spot I left, seeking heat. I gently wiped her forehead, her neck. She sighed contentedly, but didn't wake. I lay back down and pulled her close. She snuggled in immediately, finding her spot in the crook of my neck. I held her, inhaling the scent of her mixed with me. A sense of peace and satisfaction I'd never known soaked into my bones. The last of the twilight faded. The room went dark. She stirred, waking up. Confused at first, she rubbed against me, then blinked her eyes open, struggling to focus. Caleb. Her voice was raspy, soft. Yeah. I held her tighter. Awake. She blinked, memory returning. A blush spread across her face, and she buried herself deeper into my chest. Yeah. I laughed, feeling the vibration in my chest. Does it still hurt? She pinched my waist under the covers, weak and half-hearted. Shut up. I caught her hand and kissed her fingertips. Maya. What? I love you. She trembled slightly, slowly looking up. In the dark, her eyes shone like they held starlight. She leaned up and kissed me, featherlight. Me too, she whispered, then added a lot. Like a lot. My heart melted into a puddle. I kissed her forehead. Sleep. I'm right here. She curled back into me, arm around my waist, leg thrown over mine like a koala. Story complete.